Good morning. My name is Reagen. I'm the constituency head for Mitchell's Plain. I'm today in Tafelsig with neighbourhood watchers, CPF members, members of the community to celebrate Mandela Day. I grew up in Rocklands, Mitchell's Plain, not too far from where I'm standing, and one particular area in Mitchell's Plain is known as the Yal. And that area is known as the Yal because gang members wrote on the wall, "Welcome to the Yal." But we've seen how that narrative has cemented across areas, not only here in Mitchell's Plain, but in other areas. But we are here today to claim back corners, to claim back streets, knowing that we can defeat gangsterism. So we are here to beautify areas, but also to make sure that our young people don't read "Welcome to a town" after a gang. We have people in Mitchell's Plain and across the city of Cape Town and South Africa that are committed to making a difference and to live the legacy of Nelson Mandela. We have a government, sadly, at national level that have failed to live up to the ideals that Nelson Mandela stood for. So I am here today to celebrate, to say that yes, we are giving back. It's 67 seconds and 67 minutes. It can be 67 hours because we know we want to give back to the communities. We need to give back knowing that government has a role to play. And in my role as the Provincial Minister for Community Safety and Police Oversight, I remain committed to make sure that our communities remain safer so that our young kids, our young daughters are able to live and grow up in a community where they do feel safe. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of this live crossing. We are going to head over to our provincial leader here in the Western Cape together with Alderman JP Smit to see what they have been up to this morning. But once again, thank you. Please hit the share button, the like button, and ask other social media friends to also join in on this live broadcast. I'm joined now by the provincial leader, Tertuis, together with Alderman JP Smit, our MACO member for safety and security in the city of Cape Town. If they are able to come and join me, our provincial leader is still hard at work.
It's so tempting.
It is so tempting for them to now whitewash me, but we are here today to celebrate Nelson Mandela, to celebrate Madiba Day, knowing that sacrifices have been made, that many have lost their lives for us to be free today. Provincial Minister and Provincial Leader for the DA here in the Western Cape, hoekom doen ons die vandag? Why are we doing this today to celebrate Madiba?
Well, first and foremost, as Tata Mandela said, he's leaving it in our hands to shape a better future. And you said we're not here to whitewash, we're here to address the real issues effectively with all key stakeholders, province, the city of Cape Town, our CPFs, our neighbourhood watchers, but also our broader community. Everybody has a role to play. And that is the true spirit of Mandela Day. We all have a part to play to take back the ownership within our communities. And that's why I'm here.
Have you seen any signs that you would not want to see on a wall here today?
Well, obviously, on the latter side of the wall, yes, we do still see graffiti happening here. So we hope that after we paint here today, that the community will take ownership of what we've done here today as a Democratic Alliance.
We are claiming back communities. We are claiming back territories that gangs have stated is theirs. We are here today that this belongs to the community. Our young people have a future, and we will make everything possible to make sure that they ultimately live a better life for their kids one day. I'm also joined by Alderman JP Smit, who is at the forefront of safety and security here in the city of Cape Town. They are putting budget to where it is needed. And I will ask him, Alderman, is there any of the activities that the city is doing in terms of safety and security? And what would you want to share to listeners here today?
So I think Tertuis as leader said the most pertinent thing, and that is that we all have a responsibility, a commitment to try and reclaim our communities. As leadership, we can set an example. We can remind people of what can be done to delete, in this case, the fingerprints of the gangs from the community. It irks me deeply to see the gang tags and stuff around any community. We are currently busy expanding our little graffiti unit. We've got a few officers and a number of cleaning staff who work with them to go around communities and painting out graffiti, and we're currently expanding that so that we can just make sure more communities don't have this pestilential fingerprints of the gangs all over it, claiming that territory, and so that our communities can look better. Those indicators of disorder, something our neighbourhood watchers look at a lot, and there is an example of community members who live this Mandela Day commitment to community service every single week when they're out on patrol doing stuff. And one of the things they do is paint out graffiti in their communities. So to all the neighbourhood watch members out there, everybody else who's involved in some kind of volunteer activity, whether with the police or the emergency services or anywhere, thank you. This is something that we can all do, is volunteer and show how we render service for our community.
Before we let JP know and before he starts to paint me, JP, in terms of the whole of government approach, where we see that governments are working together here in the Western Cape, our partnership in terms of the LEAP program, are you able to share with some of the listeners what that means to the city of Cape Town and to the wider city area?
So I started by talking about the neighbourhood watches. That's a good first place where city and province have an agreement, a memorandum of agreement where we both support the almost 50,000 neighbourhood watch members in this city, of which about half of those, just almost 24,000, are accredited by the Community Safety Department, of which you're the MEC. And that has become a really powerful fraternity for change. I'm very proud of them. More directly, the massive 1.8 billion rand investment in the LEAP offices in our 13 worst hotspots that generate the most crime. Remember that a little bit more than half of all the violent crime is experienced by 10 out of the 60 police precincts in the city. So spare a thought for what those community members go through. We have put our money where our mouth is, invested most directly there. And I think the partnership between city and province continues to grow. Because we have leadership on both sides that really engage communities, understand, are in touch with the communities. We are trying very hard to extend that partnership also to national government. But I must say it, that we have a partner in national government in the form of the national minister who is not committed to intergovernmental cooperation, who this morning again is having an imbizo to which he invited you on Friday with less than one full business day's notice, effectively 6 working hours notice, and to which the city wasn't even invited. So it's very hard for us to fully participate and to be full partners with national government when they are not acting in good faith. And that is one thing I must at least say about the provincial government. We have a working relationship that is now genuinely benefiting the communities.
Thank you so much, Alderman. I will leave our provincial leader and Alderman JP Smith to continue with their painting here today, and we will then cross over to John Steenhuisen, the DA leader, together with other activists that are here as well. Are we off?
But I was intending to give you some...
Behind me, the painting is continuing. We are removing graffiti from our walls, knowing that it sends a negative impact and a negative message to communities when they see gang names on our walls here in communities. I am going to head over to John and try to interrupt him at this time. He is hard at work. John, if I can drag you away.
Yes, from my great job.
Yes, why are we doing this today?
Well, I think it's part of the DA's vision of a whole of society approach to tackling societal problems. realizing that no political party, no agency can fight crime and criminality on its own. It's going to require neighbourhood watches, communities, church organisations, NGOs, CBOs, all to be involved in building an ecosystem where we can fight crime and criminality. And that's why I think it's wrong what was done to someone like Ian Cameron, for instance, from Action Society, who was standing up for community policing and who was then told to shut up by the police minister. We don't need a police minister telling people to shut up. We need a police minister who's focused on getting rid of gangs and criminals. One of the things we're doing here today is we're getting rid of the gang tags here, where they mark their territory and say this community or this area of the community belongs to us. We say today, no, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to all of us. It's a whole of society's territory and ground, and we're all invested in keeping it safe, clean, and beautiful.
So gangsterism can be defeated in terms of the whole of government approach, whole of society approach. We have made calls as the DA in order for the national minister to be removed. Are you able to share more information in that regard?
Yeah, well, we got a petition going called Tele Must Go, and I urge people to sign the petition because we need a police minister whose sole focus is on getting rid of criminals and gangsters off the streets. Not a police minister who's more interested in social media and hats and all sorts of other things and telling community members to shut up. We need a police minister who's actually able to fight crime. Every metric in the fight against crime has gone backwards under Bekele. We've got 1,300 fewer detectives than we had 2 years ago. We've seen crime increasing. Every year we're told they're going to beat gender-based violence. Gender-based violence figures go up. Gangsterism goes up. The National Police Authority is also throttling our communities like these ones in Mitchell's Plain, Gugulethu, Langa, etc., from policing resources. So they're some of the most under-resourced police stations in the country. And that's also why we're saying, let's provincialize policing, let's localize policing, because international best practice shows us when you bring policing down to the lower level, when you've got Minister Reagen making decisions rather than someone sitting in Pretoria who doesn't understand the local conditions on the ground here. And then we must modernize, equip and train our brave men and women in blue who put their lives on the line for us every single day.
And we have seen most recently in the quarterly crime stats here in the Western Cape, where LEAP officers were deployed in our hotspot areas, there was actually a reduction in crime, in knowing that the extra boots on the ground does play a role.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And again, it proves the point about localizing. When the province put, when Langa was identified as a murder hotspot, the province put policing resources into Langa. It's now not the murder capital of the country anymore. Local policing is far more effective because you're able to really get to grips with where the crime is. What does somebody sitting in Pretoria know about Parliament poaching? What does somebody who's sitting in Pretoria know about the gang shootings here in the Western Cape? It's people here in the Western Cape that understand that they understand how to beat criminals and crime and criminality, and that's what the focus has got to be. But if it wasn't for the LEAP officers, if it wasn't for the provincial intervention here in the Western Cape, crime would be a lot worse than it is. And I'm very proud of the work that the City of Cape Town and the province of the Western Cape are doing to take the fight directly to criminals.
John, before I let you get back to what you have been doing, won't today be seen as something soft? What will your reply be?
Well, I think it comes in with the whole broken windows theory about policing. When you beautify an area, where you make sure that you show that there's a zero tolerance for antisocial behavior, it sets a tone that there's law and order in this community. So far from being soft, I think that far too often the breakdown of infrastructure, litter, a broken infrastructure is a sign to criminals that no one cares about this area, so we can move in. I think by beautifying this wonderful wall behind us today, we send a message out to the community that this is a place that we care about, that we pride, and we want the community to take pride in the area as well, and send a message to the gangsters that if you want to get your dirty drugs and your terrible behavior in this is not the community that's for you, because this community cares about its environment, cares about the community.
There you have it. Please check out the petition on the DA's website. We will continue to be painting over graffiti here this morning, as well as in other areas. We have members of the community that is also joining us, because we know together we are able to tackle crime, but also knowing that we can beautify our areas so that our young people, so that the women and the men in this area are able to see a clear difference. We can beat crime. We've seen the successes here in the Western Cape, and we have been calling for national government to devolve SAPs to local government and to provincial government so that it can be better managed, so that we can actually see a dent in crime. So thank you for joining us on the live stream. Please comment, please share this on social media so that we can get more people involved as well. John Steenhuisen said, Nyanga is no longer the murder capital of South Africa. We've seen with cooperation, SAPs, law enforcement, the LEAP officers, neighbourhood watchers and CPF members all cooperating together in order to reduce crime. I will now go over to our next.
Where's the DA blue? I need the DA blue. Boys, they were the whiteish also. You must have to watch it. Move your hand to the white colors. Gonna keep. Up for you, Anna, yourself. Pick up the land. Blue. DA blue. And in between that, in between that, oh, shit. There's no space.
Our Mandela Day activities are going amazing. We are beautifying the area of Tafelsig in Mitchell's Plain. We are painting over graffiti and gang signage here in Mitchell's Plain, knowing that it contributes to making our area safer, because our young people are not seeing a gang's name. They are actually seeing something that they can identify with. We are also putting a number of handprints on these walls to show that we are claiming back our communities. I am joined by a member of Parliament in the Provincial Legislature, Ricardo, Mackenzie. Why are you doing this today, and why are you getting your hands dirty?
Well, it's obviously International Nelson Mandela's Day, and as you say, we are claiming public spaces. You know, the gangsters in many of our community has put graffiti as their gang signs, the numbers, the numbers as we know it, and what we are doing with the community in this part of Mitchell's Plain, of Tafelsig, is owning the public spaces, is beautifying the public spaces so that we can own it as a community.
Do you think that the legacy of Nelson Mandela is being honored by our national government?
I don't think the legacy of Nelson Mandela is being honored by our national government at the moment. I mean, what's happening in the country, safety and security, for example, is a massive thing. We're now in July 2022, exactly a year ago. We had the complete collapse of our crime intelligence. We had the complete collapse of our state security. We saw the SA unrest, the Durban riots, and we spilled over in the Gauteng province. Luckily, through our safety structures, our neighborhood watchers, our law enforcement officers, and our hardworking subs members, it didn't spill out in the Western Capes. And that's a grateful thanks to great leadership, our community leaders, our neighborhood watchers, our provincial government, our city of Cape Town. It didn't spill over in our province, but it did spill over in national government. And the legacy of the collapse of our state security institutions, our crime intelligence, has shown that they're not honoring the legacy of Nelson Mandela, sadly so.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. We are here to celebrate Nelson Mandela. We are here to celebrate his legacy and giving back. This is happening not only here in Mitchell's Plain, but across the province, across South Africa, where people are giving back. We will urge you to contribute, to give back. Spend 67 minutes of giving back and get involved in your community, because we know when community members and community leaders get involved, we are able to see a difference. Mr. Michael, a community leader, why are you doing it?
Obviously honor the legacy of our former President Nelson Mandela, and this is where it starts, and this is why we're doing this.
Thank you so much. What would your message be to the younger generation? As a community leader growing up, what will you say to the younger generation?
You're never too young to give back. The opportunity is now, so make use of it. In fact, just across the field, it's a Nelson Mandela Youth and Family Center. So there's a lot of work to be done, but this is where we're starting today. So we hope to extend it to the center as well, so that everybody can get involved and be part of this wonderful initiative.
Ladies and gentlemen, those watching us live, there you have it. It's when we all play a role. When all communities, stakeholders, safety stakeholders, NGOs, businesses play a role, we will be able to see a difference. We are taking back our streets. Crime can be defeated. Gangsterism can be defeated. And I'm going to walk over to one of the youngest ever members of the provincial parliaments in the Free State. She came all the way from the Free State to come and join us here, and she is not going to paint me. She is painting the wall. Karabo,
Hi, Reagen.
so happy that you are here in Cape Town and that you are participating. You've seen the difference. You are seeing young people that are contributing. And as a young member of Parliament, why are you doing this?
I'm doing this because, one, let's remember why we're commemorating Nelson Mandela. The 67 days that we're celebrating, 67 minutes that we're celebrating today are a reflection of 67 years of his contribution towards building a better society. Building a society, a South Africa, where people can be safe within the communities that they live. And nobody is as affected by safety as young children who grow up depending on communities that are safe, right? So me being here today is saying, let's take back our communities. Let's have walls that signify peace, that signify safety, that signify basically a crime-ridden spaces of living all together. When you as a young person grow up and when you walk through walls and all you see is graffiti, that to you says crime is normal. That says gangsterism is normal. And by being here today and painting these walls and making them pure, we're saying crime is not normal. There's never going to be a day in communities where we're going to be pro-gangsterism. And so for ourselves, for our communities and young people, we're clearing up the space. So that's why I'm here.
And that's so vital. Karabo is the youngest ever member of Provincial Parliament that was elected in South Africa. And when you see young people giving back, when you see young people taking a stand, knowing that that is what Nelson Mandela fought for. He fought for all generations to make a difference, all generations to play a role, and the whole of government, the whole of society coming together to defeat crime. So Karabo, thank you so much. What will your message be to the young people for them to also give back during this day and during this year? What will your message be to young people?
My message to young people is simple. Yes, today is Mandela Day, but every day should be Mandela Day. Every day should be an opportunity for us to fight towards a crime-ridden society, for crime-ridden communities across the whole of South African society at large. That's it. Let's not just wait for public occasions or public holidays for us to reclaim our communities and fight and communicate that South Africa is ours, and our South Africa is one that has no gangsterism, that has no crime, that is safe for all of us to grow up in.
There you have it. Leaders are not, young people are not only the leaders of tomorrow, but they are the leaders of today. Karabo, thank you so much for being here in Cape Town, in the most beautiful city in South Africa, where we have a DA government. Here in our province, but also here in our city, and we've seen the cooperation between DA-led governments. We've seen the differences. Where the DA governs, we govern better, but we're also bringing services so that it can impact and change the lives of our people where they reside. So we are here in Tafelsig today in Mitchell's Plain to celebrate Madiba, to celebrate his legacy, knowing that he has contributed so much so that we are able to live in a country that is free. We are going to be checking in on some of the other people that are still here, activists, but also see what other members are doing here before I cross over to some interviews with members of the community.
En wat must I do? Julle moet hier kom almal, julle hier. Staan en draai na die ander toe.
Jy moet jou hande nie. Reagen, ek hou nie van hartlik alles hier vir gou daar gaan. Up for the hands. Jaden, kom. Daar maar toe, Jaden.
Nou, julle kan dit so saam met Auntie?
We are still in Tafelsig, Mitchell's Plain, celebrating Mandela Day, celebrating his legacy, knowing that many people died, many people sacrificed for us to live in a free country. But gangsterism and crime is holding many communities back. Hence we are here to take back our streets, take back our communities. Earlier on, the dear leader John Steenhuisen mentioned the importance of NGOs playing an important role. Would you want to refresh and tell us about the role that NGOs are playing to make communities safer as well?
The whole point is it goes to about a whole of society approach to dealing with problems. There's no government, no political party that can tackle crime and criminality on its own. It needs to bring together in a whole of society approach church-based organizations, community-based organizations, neighborhood watches, community police forum, to take ownership and to join hands to have a united front against crime. Obviously, the SAPS is the primary crime-fighting organ, but they can't do it on their own, and they need the support of community organizations. But it is a partnership, and that's where I think the National Minister gets it wrong. You can't treat people who are trying to help you fight crime as an enemy or as an opponent. You shouldn't be chasing them out of meetings. You should be grasping hands with them and uniting communities in the fight against gangsterism and drugs. That's the only way we're going to beat it. So I fundamentally believe that not even the DA has got the answer for everything. We need to join hands, as the city's done with neighborhood watches and with CPFs, as the province has done with the LEAP program, joining hands with communities, the walking bus program. All of that is involving the community in it. And that is absolutely essential if we're going to tackle the societal problems. But what we can't do is treat heroes who are out on the streets every day fighting crime as the problem. They're not the problem, they're the solution, and we must treat them and respect them as such.
There you have it. The South African Police Service is the lead agency to fight crime, but we also understand the whole of government approach, when provincial government, local government here in the city of Cape Town, together with safety stakeholders, are playing a role, but not forgetting the NGOs that are doing amazing work. I am joined by Mr. Ian Cameron as well. You will be known for a word that was used by the National Minister of Police, but here we won't ask you to keep quiet. We will ask you to share your sentiments.
Only my wife can do that.
We will ask you to share your sentiments around what you're doing, what your organization is doing, and the vital part of linking up with governments as well.
Yeah, thank you, MEC Alan. I think the crucial thing for me is I agree with what John said exactly. To add to that is quite simple. I think at the moment the crime situation makes it clear that you are your own first and your own last line of defense in many cases. I just came from Gugulethu, where people tell me how often they're told that there's no van available. And I think it's unfair that we see ministers and people from national government driving around with motorcades and bodyguards when the people in this very community don't have that support. This morning we were patrolling in Lentegier, and I don't see people there walking around with vests and firearms and things. The elderly ladies that want to safeguard their streets, and that's what we want to support. And from Action Society side, we mainly focus on gender-based violence, but it's become so clear to us that there's a massive need to strengthen community safety structures in the country. And in communities like these, I think it's an opportunity to not only instill a type of a discipline to get involved in community safety, to make people proud of their community, to make it look nice, like what's happening here today. That's the kind of culture that we want to start building. And I think the other important part of the neighborhood watch and community policing forum model is that it takes away a victim mentality, because the people that are taking part here aren't victims. They are people that are taking charge of their future. They're taking charge of the opportunity to make their surroundings look better, and that's what we want to obviously encourage. The rest of it, from our side, what we want to say to people like the minister is that we are there to support police on ground level. I'm not interested in the politics that he is involving in policing. I think it's atrocious that he sends out a press release today to come and destroy bottles of alcohol while another, 9 people were shot in Kailicha over the weekend. He should be spending time with those families rather, and on top of that, he should be checking why crime intelligence wasn't doing their jobs. Why don't they have the resources? So from our side, we want to carry on improving or supporting these types of projects, and we want to make sure that we start getting prosecutions for violent crime in the country.
Action Society does amazing work in terms of capacitating neighborhood watches as well. Here in the Western Cape, we have over 16,000 neighborhood watch members that are contributing to making our communities safer. Here, the Western Cape government also support, fund, capacitate and train those neighborhood watchers to be the eyes and ears on the ground as well. But Mr. Cameron, you mentioned something about gender-based violence and the work you do around the court watching brief. I think that is so vital, because we know that secondary victimization leads many people to no longer trust and believe in the justice system. Are you able to share some of the work that you do in terms of GBV?
Yeah, of course. So we were just speaking about a case this morning that we got, and it is a shocking case where 2 very young girls have been repeatedly raped and sodomized by their grandfather, and it's a new case that we've started working on now. And what we basically do is we provide support to the families of those victims, or we spend time with the victims preparing them for court, that the court process isn't such an incredibly intimidating and cold environment in which they need to then function. So we prepare them for that. What we then do is we spend time with investigating officers, and again, away from the politics that we hear from the minister, we want to say that we need to support the members on ground level, because I guarantee you, again today, from 3 police stations, we had requests, can you please take on the following challenges that we have on ground level. Again today, when I drive past one of the police stations in the Cape Flats, I see a van standing there that I saw 4 weeks ago, still with flat tires, not available to work. So what we then do is we make contact with the investigating officer, we offer help. If it doesn't function properly, we then follow up that case. But then when it comes to the prosecution process, that's where the real work starts, because we often hear that there's a lot of bragging about arrests being made, but I don't see the convictions being done. Now, with sexual offences in South Africa, we have less than 5.3% conviction rate when it comes to sexual offences. Less than 1 in 5 cases actually make it to trial. So many cases get scrapped from the roll because of many different technical issues and so on, when they could have actually helped people see justice. And we then follow up with the prosecution. And if it doesn't function properly, we do it ourselves.
Thank you so much. We have NGOs and community-based organizations doing amazing work. But we also know, in terms of what Ian mentioned, our detectives are sitting with a caseload of more than 250 dockets per person. That's humanly impossible to investigate. We've also seen here in the Western Cape that 71% of our detectives have not completed the basic detective training course. John, earlier on you mentioned that we need to devolve SAPs
Yeah.
to provincial levels where choices are made all the way in Pretoria, which is 1,500 kilometers away from where we are standing. And we know that once policing and choices are made at a provincial level, we will be able to see that change. Are you able to elaborate on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, international best practice shows that where you devolve policing down to a local level, it's far more effective. That you cannot have a national policing plan for South Africa that one size fits all. The provinces all have unique problems with crime. Gangsterism and parliament poaching here in the Western Cape are not something that you find in Limpopo. But there are other problems there with stock theft and that. So the more you can localize the policing, the more effective you are at actually dealing with crime on the ground. And international best practice shows that that is the case. But it's also about, and this for me was a heartbreaking thing. I was on patrol in Johannesburg this week against the fight against cable theft in Joburg with the mayor and Michael's son, the MMC there. And it's heartbreaking to hear the police personnel talking about how the conditions they've got to work with, vehicles that are broken, vehicles that go into government garage and come back, if they ever come back, a year, 2 years down the line. It's a station sitting with a 20% capacity of its vehicles. We've got brave men and women in the SAPS on the ground who put their lives on the line for South Africans every day. Surely the least we can do for them is make sure they've got the most up-to-date training, the most up-to-date high-tech equipment to allow them to fight crime. When I was in Taiwan, I got into a police vehicle. They showed us a police vehicle. It was like the space shuttle in there. They had fingerprint recognition. They had cameras linked to the CCTV camera footage in there. They had links to the Home Affairs system. It looked like a spaceship in there. If you look or put your head into any police van in South Africa, there's an old radio. The clutch is probably burnt out, and the most high-tech piece of equipment in there is probably the cell phone that the officer is carrying. We need to give our police personnel the equipment and tools to do the job, and then we need to support them in doing it. What the SAPs need is a minister who's serious about going to national government and fighting for that. Do you know, Reagen, we keep being told by Beckhey that he keeps being told there's no money. They spent 8 billion rand a year on VIP protection services for the 34 cabinet ministers in South Africa. 8 billion rand. Can you imagine we took that 8 billion rand and distributed it into police stations, buying vehicles, training courses for our officers, making sure they've got the most up-to-date equipment. That is a proper use of it. And that's why they don't care about crime. That's why you won't see a cabinet minister ever worrying about crime, because 24 hours a day, they've got the SAPS protecting them, they've got the police protecting their families and their homes, while ordinary South Africans are left to fight for themselves. And to make matters worse, Beckhey clearly is now doing the very best he can to disarm law-abiding South African citizens, whose last line of defense in an under-resourced, overstretched police service is a firearm to keep themselves and their families safe. And yet he's going after those legal firearm owners in South Africa with vigor. And it's just a complete case of misplaced vanity projects that the minister's constantly involved in, instead of tackling crime at a grassroots level. And until we get a minister at the top who's serious about fighting crime, not about, which hats I'm going to wear today and, which photo opportunity, what's going to look good on Instagram, actually in the trenches getting to grips with fighting crime, not getting involved in the politics of the police services, and turning the police service into a professional body with people who are trained and equipped to fight crime. We're not going to win the war. And that's why more and more institutions like Ian's Action Society, other NGOs are having to step into that space to fill it, because they're doing the things that government should be doing but who aren't.
To those that are watching, we are here to celebrate Nelson Mandela Day. We are taking back our communities. We are painting over gang signage and making the wall more beautiful for people to actually have more pride in it. John's hands are totally blue. But we are here to also say that once SAPS is devolved to a provincial level, we will be able to see a difference. We do know that there is a constitutional mechanism for that to happen, and we need national government to be innovative and to devolve SAPS to a provincial government so that we are able to make those changes and help our communities and play that role. So Ian, thank you so much for the role that Action Society plays and for standing up standing up, and I firmly believe that Ian, together with many other communities supporting this call, is on the right side of history. We're on the right side of history because we do know that Nelson Mandela, many others have sacrificed and died in order for us to live in a free country, and now we need a government that is run by the Democratic Alliance in order to make that difference here in South Africa. Thank you, John.
Thank you, and thanks to Ian for your bravery. And you stood up and spoke out, and I think more South Africans need to do that. And I hope that there are a lot more people getting behind Action Society to assist your organisation to grow and to prosper. Thanks.
We've spoken to a number of people here today. We will encourage you again. Get involved. Be committed. Spend 67 minutes today, tomorrow, next week, and plow back. Pay it forward so that we are able to make a difference wherever we may are. You might be a community member, a community leader, a teacher. Any person can make a role by being positive in their community and plowing back and ultimately helping our communities to be safer here in South Africa.